Hi everybody. What's new? You know, I've said this before, but in 1955, Gretsch came out with a catalog that blew everybody's mind. 1955, if you remember, is the first year, that full year for the Stratocaster, having been delivered in mid-54, so rock and roll was still pretty young, and it was still pretty vital that the whole country, blues, rock thing, rock and roll really hadn't been defined in 1955. But at that point in time, Gretsch still had these large block inlays, and these colors like this, which is Jaguar Tan. And this is an original guitar, an original color, and I'll be honest, a lot of these hollow body Gretsches aren't selling right now, which is strange because 335s and Gibson hollow bodies are. We have this one at $17.50, and we would lower the price if you asked about it and take in trades. And then one of the things I want to brag up is our friend Steve Carr. Carr amplifiers are probably the amp that's going to explode when people go back to playing. Why? Because they go down, all of them, to like 1 watt. And you can take a Carr amplifier, it's all point-to-point wiring. Carr amplifiers have solid pine cabinets, and their speakers are floating baffles. And what that is, the baffle board is actually screwed on, not glued on. So the baffle board is allowed to breathe. Old Fender Tweed amps have this. These Skylarks are copies of Fender's Harvard amplifier. So 2 6v6 tubes, it's about 12 watts. But it goes down to 1 watt with this variable wattage control on the top. So it'll go down to 0 watts up to about 12 watts. The Skylark has that kind of loose sound like a Tweed amplifier will, and then you can clean up quite well. Now, segueing back to Gretsch's, this Gretsch is part of that. In the 55, they had these inlays that were actually scrimshawed. And the cactus and cow inlays have always been legendary on these guitars. And the whole steer and the headstock, the cactus and cow inlays, the branded G is something that is so signature Gretsch. The problem is in 55 they had single coil pickups. As you know, humbucking pickups weren't invented yet that would buck the hum, so they tended to hum for a lot of guys. However, this guitar, which is actually a Reverend Horton Heat, has the humbucking pickups, the Filtertron pickups, and Horton Heat wanted the aesthetic of the earlier guitars with the pickups of the later guitars. Frankly, if it was mine, I'd take off this clear plastic guard or paint it gold or do something else with it, but this is a Reverend Horton Heat. Now, in the old days, we used to sell a ton of these. I've honestly had this guitar for a while, so I'll say I'd happily trade on this. And this is a monstrously good guitar. A little thicker body like the 55s have, and then you have these Filtertron pickups that are actually TV Jones, and nobody does it better than Tom Jones when it comes to recreating that Gretsch sound. And then here we are with this Carr amplifier again, talking about these pickups on this, and this Carr amp can have a really nice gritty sound. Great guitar. It's a great amplifier that goes down to low wattage. At any point you can flip a little switch and go up to full 12 watts. Now once I start this amp up, it's going to be hard to hear me from the microphone. I know. Yeah, right? Okay, so you can get as loud as you want, a deep, lush reverb. And going back to 1.5 watts, it also has a fairly clean sound. Or a little lower. So these amps right now, Carr amps, are all for at-home usage, down to 1 watt. That means you can play in the living room, they can't hear you in the kitchen, and with the 12 watts, plenty loud for when you get back to playing gigs again. Carr amplifiers, we have them in stock right now. You can trade us stuff. That's the trend, low wattage amplifiers. And then again, we'd happily take a trade on this. I love this guitar, but it's been here for a while, so let's talk.